Welcome to a special series on BIV Today, the daily podcast from the Newsroom of Business in Vancouver, in which we meet our CEOs of the Year award recipients from us. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief. Today we're meeting the recipient in our enterprise company category. That's the large company, the largest of the companies, the president and CEO of FortisBC, our natural gas and electricity provider, Roger Dall'Antonia. And our winner in the not-for-profit category, Darlene Hyde. She's president and CEO of the British Columbia Real Estate Association. Good to have you both with us. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kirk.
Yeah,
nice to be here.
Good to see you both. And so let's start with you, Darlene. I mean, what have recent times been teaching you as a CEO?
Well, a great question. I think the need to be nimble, to be quick, to respond quickly but thoughtfully, to engage our stakeholders repeatedly, to be in constant communication with the people who are depending on us for information or services. And that's what it's taught me, that there's this is a 24/7, almost a 24/7 cycle. And you have to be ready to move at any moment.
Yeah. Roger?
Very similar to Darlene. I think one of the key learnings for us, and one of the phrases that as a team here at FortisBC that we've relied on, is to lead by your values. When you're faced in an uncertain time, a very uncertain time, you don't have a process book or develop guidelines. So you're making decisions very quickly, and you don't have the past experience for it. So you should be able to rely heavily on your values, what you believe in as a company, to make those decisions that you haven't had to make before. I mean, for us, I think of the start of the pandemic in March. We put out a travel restriction for our employees. Most companies did mid-March, early March, just before spring break. And about a week later, and that was viewed as, oh, wow, this is, we got to think carefully about this. A week to 2 weeks later, we had 1,300 people working from home, half our workforce. And when things are happening that quickly, if you really don't have a strong sense of yourself and a value system to guide the organization, you're struggling to make those decisions. So for us, it's that lead by your values. And the other thing, to what Darlene said, is that the concept of nimble. Every organization has a culture. As a utility, safety and reliability are central to what we do. And to be safe and reliable, we've developed a very an organization that's focused on structure. And all of a sudden, we have to be an organization that can innovate, be very nimble, and move very quickly, mobilize quickly. So we've learned that we have those people in our organization, which I'm very proud of, as we've been able to do things much quicker than we ever would have thought we could have.
Darlene, your sector not only had to deal with people working from home, but also people not going into homes to buy them all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, that was, I think, one of the biggest surprises that I had. I mean, realtors are very entrepreneurial, very get-her-done type people. They embraced virtual technology in a flash. They had virtual open houses. They had drones flying over homes to get aerial views. And so it was just amazing to see how 23,000 realtors in this province could pivot to virtual options almost overnight. That's how adaptable these people are. The other surprise, though, once we came out of the depths of COVID, was how well the real estate sector has performed. I mean, it has smashed sales records for the past 5 months. Pent-up demand, low interest rates, low supply. Like, it's just been, they talk about the K-shaped economy. One part of the economy is doing well, another part not so well. Well, real estate is lucky to be in the top part of that K economy.
Yeah, you're in the right part of the K. Roger, for you, what really surprised you in a hurry here?
I wouldn't say anything surprised. I think it was more what was reinforced, right? And I think for us in our organization, a couple of things really stand out. And that's the depth of leadership that we have in our organization. when you're faced with uncertain times, you really see people rise to the challenge. And I think the depth of leadership all the way through organization, from the executive team all the way through to folks in the field, folks in the office, just how people have risen to the challenge, very much a collective effort. I think the other thing is just the speed with which we did things. You don't know what you can do until you try. And I think the ability for our folks to adapt quickly and to be able to sustain this footing for what no one expected would be this long has been really, is really reinforced in my mind, the sense of purpose our folks have to serve. And that's allowed them to do what they've done so far.
Yeah. Darlene, I've heard lots of CEOs, I mean, Roger himself talking about the team. I hear you talking about the group that you've got and the realtors and all that. But how does a CEO lean in a little differently at a time like this?
Well, I think we also have a fantastic team that's been able to sustain an incredible pace over the last several months. I think steering a course, hiring good people and get the hell out of their way, step away from the micromanagement and the checking everything, trust those people to know what to do and how to do it, be there to steer and to coach where necessary, but and to keep the motivation up, because these people are putting in long hours, and how do you sustain and let them know that you appreciate them? So really, to Roger's point, the value of the team just drove home to me and we did lead by our values. To Roger's point, there were lots of voices back on March 10th who said, "Oh, don't shut the office down. That'll look bad. That's bad optics." And I said, you know what? Health and safety is my first priority. We're closing her down. And we pivoted to remote working in one day because of a robust digital backbone. And had I listened, you got to listen to your lights too. You got to trust the experience that you've got and your instincts and your values, and go with them, because you don't have all day to debate every issue.
Yeah. Roger, can you look back on these last 8 months and realize how you leaned in a little differently?
I think the two things that stand out, two words, one would be trust, and the other would be communication. In the normal work day, a lot of what you do is based on what you've experienced before and what you've learned from that experience. When you're faced with a challenge that you haven't experienced before, you really have to draw on the collective wisdom of your folks and trust their voices in charting what would be a path you haven't gone down before. So that trust and delegation to your team is absolutely critical. The one that is really for us has been very noticeable, because we have employee workforce of about 2,500 folks, is communication. We've really stressed the communication to our folks, being very transparent on what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, reinforcing that message so everyone understands the intentions that we have in trying to ensure safety of our folks, safety of our people, of our communities, making sure that we continue to deliver what is an essential product to everybody. So that piece on communication has been at the forefront of everything we've done, and that transparency that comes with it.
But both of you are CEOs, and the CEO is not supposed to ever be wrong. Have you also had to learn how to be wrong and be transparent about it at times, Roger?
It reminds me of a phrase that a previous CEO once shared with me, one of my predecessors, and he said, do more with what you have two of, being your ears, than what you have one of, which is your mouth. Listen to your people. They have experience and capabilities that are what you rely on. So the ability to actually listen. It's easy to say it, but it is absolutely critical in uncharted times.
Yeah. Darlene?
Absolutely. Be able to hear the discussion in the moment and then listen for what's what feels right, what sounds right. And it may not have been your idea. Somebody else came up with the idea. Go with the best idea on the table.
Yeah. So let me ask both of you again. What have you learned about yourselves? Darlene, start off.
Well, I always knew I was a good turnaround leader because that's what I like to do. I like to go into organizations that are somewhat in distress and turn them around a bit. But what I found out was that I actually I didn't enjoy the crisis, but I enjoyed the experience of leading through the crisis, because what I do like is to make decisions and get feedback quickly. And that's what happened with that. You quickly knew whether you were on the right track or the wrong track, as opposed to waiting for weeks and months. So I actually found out that I was a good leader during a crisis period, which I didn't know before.
What have you learned about yourself?
Two things come to mind. How much I rely on the support of family and colleagues. And that sounds kind of a weird thing to say, but when you're faced in a situation like this, this crisis or this pandemic is impacting everybody differently, right? It's not like it's a challenge within the company itself and everyone leaves work and they go back to their normal lives, but this is impacting everybody in many different ways. And the ability in those times of higher stress, higher anxiety, how important the bonds you develop with your colleagues are, how important your family is. It's sometimes it's self-evident to say that, but really having that support is critical. The other thing is I've got a greater appreciation for the value of empathy and patience. When getting back to the point about everyone's experiencing this pandemic differently, everyone's got their own situation that, it may not be evident that at work, you get a better perspective of what people are going through, whether a colleague has young kids and you're trying to navigate the school system right now that adds a certain level of anxiety. If you're caring for elderly parents who obviously are at greater risk because of this pandemic, or you have a friend or family member who may be at higher risk, you really start to understand the whole person is who you work with, and having empathy and patience for the different things people are dealing with while they're still performing exceptionally well at their job. So having that empathy and patience is something that I've come to appreciate much more through this.
Okay. Legitimate question here, and honest answer expected. Darlene, do you like your job more?
Actually, I do. I do, because we were able to offer needed services in a timely way to our 11-member boards and our 23,000 realtors. And we were doing it in the moment. So what it reinforced for me was the service value that we have for that community. Service for me is a noble word. It's not a one-down word. It's a very positive experience. So yes, I love it more.
Yeah, Roger?
Absolutely. And I think the reason why is twofold. Like Darlene, we're a service organization. We serve 1.2 million homes and businesses across the province with a critical service. And what I've come to appreciate is just how deep the collective sense of purpose we have on serving our communities is, and just how good our people are. Like, I'm so proud of our organization that it's an absolute privilege to be able to be in this chair and work with the people that I do, because they are so good at what they do.
Yeah. We often think of CEOs as people who take care of others and serve others, but I want to find out from each of you how you've taken care of yourself. Roger?
Well, I think in times like this, physical and mental well-being are critical. The physical well-being for me, my wife and I are fortunate to share a passion for cycling. So I've been able to enjoy our beautiful part of the province, cycling, and making sure I prioritize time to do that. But I think the mental well-being in times like this is even more important. And for me, the two things stand out. One is when you do have your activities, your hobbies, your passions outside of work, like when you're doing those, commit to those. Turn off the work channel. You really do have to immerse yourself in those. I help coach a soccer team, a U21 boys team. And being on the field with those guys is just is a tonic. It's just great to be out there. So immerse yourself in that. And the final thing I'll say on this is that when you're facing increased levels of stress and anxiety, regardless of what you do, regardless of your job, acknowledge those and reach out and talk about them. Make sure that you are not ignoring those cues, because it's absolutely normal to be feeling increased levels of stress and anxiety, and the ability to talk to folks. I'm fortunate. I have an amazing family that's very supportive, and being able to reach out and discuss those feelings is critical.
Yeah. Darlene, tell me about how you're taking care of yourself.
Well, a lot of parallels with Roger. With my husband, we enjoy hiking and walking, so we got out a lot into nature. We took a road trip to Jasper, enjoyed the Rocky Mountains, then a road trip through southeastern British Columbia. So loved saw our province as opposed to running off to Europe. So, I mean, it was a great opportunity to experience British Columbia. Reading more, like 2 books a week. I turn off the social networks, the social media, and the cable networks and all the cable news, and just focus on reading or whatever I want to do, and finding my own time. It's been terrific just to shut off the chatter and the noise and rejuvenate and recharge.
You haven't missed anything on cable news, by the way. Nothing much
Was
going on.
there an election? I heard there was an election.
Two. Yeah. Anyway, last question, and I'm sure both of you are asked all the time, given your experience, about what advice you have for other leaders. And I presume too that maybe it's changed a bit during this period of time. And I want to get from each of you a bit of advice for other leaders about how to handle themselves, how to handle their operations, maybe how to think about their roles in particular ways. And Darlene, let me start with you.
Well, some of these things have been said in this podcast, either by Roger or myself, but I want to reiterate them. Hire good people, get out of their way. Ensure the health of your team, not just the physical health, with the COVID, but their mental health and all the challenges that they are going through. Expect the best of people. They will rarely disappoint you. Find common cause wherever you can. Collaborate. We've been able to collaborate with our member boards, with the regulators, with others. Work with those who will work with you to get something done. It's easier to get things done that way and faster, and you get far more buy-in. And I think those would be some of the things I've learned. You're dealing with the whole person. That's what I learned. I learned far more about the people I work with during this crisis than I did before. I learned the names of their dogs and their cats and everything else that went with their home life. And I never knew that before. And I think that's important. That's really important to know the people that work with you in more than just an employee role.
Yeah.
So
Roger,
those would be some of the things I have to say.
Sure. Roger, let me give you last word on this.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kirk. I think to what we said earlier, lead by your values and trust in your people. Draw on the relationships that you forge every day, because those relationships are invaluable in times of crisis. Be transparent in your actions and your intentions. It builds trust, and that allows you to move quickly when you have to. Communication, it's absolutely critical. You cannot have enough communication when people are dealing with the challenge. So really focus on the communication across your organization with your folks. Be accessible. Stress that with your customers to let everyone know that you're in it together and you're going to get through it together.
Well, it's been a great conversation with both of you. First of all, congratulations again for being our recipients this year, 2 of our 6 recipients for CEO of the Year. But it's been a great conversation to share some insights on all this. Roger Dall'Antonia from FortisBC and Darlene Hyde of the British Columbia Real Estate Association. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Other segments in our series, we'll look at our other 4 recipients of these awards. We'll have conversations with them too. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief of Business in Vancouver. Thanks a lot for joining us.